Hi everyone, it's already day 5 in our journey of advent of Rust. And today we are going to cover one very interesting topic and very important as well, which is unit testing. So ready? Let's dive into the code. Before writing the first unit test, if we go back to the previous session yesterday, we saw the result type. And as you may have noticed, we are not doing anything with the e value, which represent the variable error. So in Rust, if you don't choose something, what you can do is just replace it by an underscore. It means that whatever it is, we actually don't use it. So just use the underscore. This way, you won't get any warning at compile time. So before writing a unit test, maybe what we want to do is to return actually an integer, because for the ports, maybe it does not make sense to use a string. So what we can do is to replace this by an integer. And instead of returning the number, in the error case, we can return directly 8,000. But for number, obviously, this is a string. When you read an environment variable, it's returning a string. So we want to cast it. So we can use the parse method. And the parse is actually using i32. And if we check this, it's returning also a result type. It's funny because we are in a match to detect whether or not it's a success or an error. But then when you actually do the parsing method, it can again fail. It can return i32, which is the value that we want, or it can return like a parse int error, which is like, this is not a number. So if you're trying to parse a hello world into an i32, this will fail. So obviously what we can do is we can do something like that. Let's parse results equal to this. And we can match again. So we can results. We can match it. If it's okay, we have the results. We can return it. And if it's an error, we can return once again 8,000. So it's working. If we want to do that, that's fine. So once again, parse is returning a result, so we need to match it again. But as you can see, there is a match in a match. Okay, error, okay, error. It's a bit hard to read. So maybe what we want to do is to introduce a new concept in Rust that we have not covered yet, is the unwrap or default. So we can remove this. And we can say unwrap. So unwrap is a bad practice, as we saw yesterday, but there is unwrap or, and as you can see in the signature definition, we can pass a default value. So for instance, 8,000. Yeah, missing a call. So basically what we're doing here is we try to extract the i32 value from this environment variable. And if it's failing, we unwrap, but we're returning 8,000. And obviously we don't want to have two different variables. So we can say default ports and return this. So now we have the getPort method, which is returning an i32 value, and this is what we want. So let's dive into the topic of today, which is unit testing. Maybe what we want to do is to write a unit test, which validates that if the environment variable is defined, it's returning the value. If it's defined, but it's not a number, it's returning 8,000. And if it's not defined at all, we return 8,000 as well. So let's introduce a new configuration. So it's cfg test mod test, and we can write our first test, which is a function test valid port. So here, multiple concepts. First, we need a new module, which is a test module. Each test in Rust is prefixed by the test within the square bracket. And we want this module to be loaded only when we're running the cargo test command. So this, by adding this line, it makes sure that the underlying code will not be part of the final binary. So it's really used only at compile time at runtime, for the testing portion of the cargo test command. So this code won't be in your production code, and we don't want it to be there. So that's really convenient. So what we can do is we can asset equal. I want, for instance, 1, 2, 3, 4 to be equal to get port, and we need to define our environment variable. So we can say std set variable. The variable is port, and the value is 1, 2, 3, 4. So if my function argument, if my variable is set, once again, it's a string here. So once again, if I set the string to the port environment variable, I want the getPort method to return 1, 2, 3, 4 as an int. So if we run this, let's compile it. Boom. As you can see, test valid port is okay. And it's really important to have like a meaningful test name, because in the test results, we will cover that into another session. But the test name is appearing. So if you say test ABC, that's not super helpful. Obviously, if we change this to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if we run the test, that's failing. And if you have a look at the output, we're expecting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're expecting 1, 2, 3, 4, but we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So unit test is a good practice, good habit to have when you want to make sure that your test is working correctly. One thing we can notice is if we want to have two different tests, let's say port is not a valid number, we want to make sure test invalid ports, and the default port is 8000, so we want to make sure that this is ready. So that's cool. We have two different tests. We can run the both by running this, and as you can see, each test is working independently, but when I run both tests, this is failing. So this is really interesting. If we have a look at the code here, this environment variable is read within the function, so it's not a pure function. It means that they can have some side effect. For instance, environment variable. This is what is happening in the test. In Rust, when you run cargo tests are run in parallel. So it means that one test is actually setting this environment variable, but another test is setting the exact same variable name, and it's running in parallel. So sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not working. So there's definitely something we need to do here. And one thing is actually, instead of reading the environment variable here, we can pass it as the argument of the function. Remember, this is a result of string and variable error. So this is exactly what will our parameter is going to be. So results, it's going to be a result of string var error. We can remove this, and we can match the results. And by doing this, now it's a pure function because we control the full input. The input is now passed as a parameter, so it means that we have full control of everything that is happening around our function. Of course, if we want to use it, now I need to do this. To pass it as an argument. So now my getPort function is really simple to test because I don't need that anymore. What I can do is I can say result is okay of string from 1, 2, 3, 4. And if it's okay, when I get support, it should return 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. Let's do the exact same stuff for that. No, it's 1, 2, 3, invalid char, and getPort as results. Not this. Should be equal to 8,000. So let's run it. And boom, it's working great. So once again, testing is first a good practice, but it's also super helpful to rethink about how your code is working and make sure that you're writing with pure function. Sometimes it's not possible, of course, but the more you can have a pure function, the better your code will be. Let's test the final use case where the environment variable is not set. So sports not set. And instead of having a OK, now I have an error. And remember, this is a var error. For instance, the variable is not present. And this should be able to check that and return 8,000. So if we run it, boom, this is running fine. Let's make sure that everything is running. That's cool. I have my 3 tests, one with a port set with a valid string, one set with an invalid string, and one not set. Obviously, this is running directly in the IDE, but if you want, you can run it with cargo test. Oh, I need to go into the pizza API, cargo test. And now I have some color, but it's the exact same stuff. So basically running test here is running cargo test, and running here, it's running cargo test with a regexp just to run one single test. So congrats today. It was about unit testing. So I hope you enjoy it, and see you tomorrow for more